Javelina men's basketball fans, welcome to episode 16 of the Javelina men's basketball show. My name is Landin. I'm alongside Coach Johnny Estelle. So the Javelinas are entering this weekend 17 and 6, 13 and 4 in conference. Unfortunately, things didn't go their way on Saturday against St. Edwards, but they were able to pick up a conference win against a very tough St. Mary's team. So, Coach, thank you for taking time to join me. So, Coach, as you recap this weekend and you see the efforts put forth by this team against a very talented St. Edwards team on Saturday, what are the things that stand out to you the most, knowing that your team can compete on a day-to-day basis against anybody in the country?
Well, I mean, it's about playing right. We have to play right. I think we have talent. I think this is a very good league, as you know. Anytime you have two teams in the top 10 of the country in your conference, and then you've got some other really good teams fighting, the records are indicative of how good the teams are. It's just somebody's got to win and lose every night. So you're battling. You have to battle. So for us to play right, when I say that, I mean that we have to have defensive stops, and we have to get out in the open in the transition. The first half of St. Ed's, as you're referring to, we didn't do that. We kind of was stagnant. Our pace was overall too slow. And then you got to give those guys credit, man. They shot probably better than any team I've ever coached against, and that's Coach Cook does a good job, man. And their team was hitting on all cylinders. That's what a team that's played together, that are seniors, I would expect to look like, trying to go out on a good note. They moved the ball. They had good ball movement. The shooters got open and made shots. The distributors got the ball where it needed to be. So at the end of the day, I mean, it was one of those, I hate to say perfect storms in the first half that, we didn't play particularly well, and they played really, really well. So, we had to challenge our guys at halftime. And they came out the second half, and we had a really good crowd, man. What an unbelievable crowd! Only thing is missing is the band. If we had a band, it'd be unbelievable. But we had a loud group of guys in here, people, fans, community, athletes, students, that really propelled us once we start getting stops. And that's who we are. Once we get stops, defensive stops, and then we transition and convert, then you start seeing us chip away at that 21-point lead and cut it to one.
And that's for the guys that made impacts. You saw the guys like Chauncey Thomas, Trey Flowers, Rashawn Thomas, Daniel Severa, career high 18 points.
Yes.
That went unnoticed by a lot of people, but those are big impact plays. Are those the guys that you envision making those plays in those big time moments for your team?
Yeah, I mean, those are the guys that have been the most consistent all year. I still believe that you can continuously get better. Some people think around this time this year, you are as good as you're going to be, and I don't think so. I think that's why in our program that we continue to challenge guys and put guys in different scenarios during practice and daily talk about the winning process, because Daniel was unstoppable. 18 points, 5 for 5 from the two, 8 for 8 from the line. I mean, we did a good job there, but we got him the ball. But if you look at it, it's probably more towards that run in the second half. So we have to understand how to win games, even at this stature of the year. When the outside shot is not going good. We did not shoot the ball well last week at all. But when you look at our 2-point field goal percentage, which is what I look at that quite often, we shot really good from the 2-point. So we have to focus and concentrate. How do you get those? You get them with drives, you get them in transition, you get it by throwing them in the post. Also, Chauncey, I thought picked his pace up in the second half and broke the defense down and got to the free throw line. He was 6 for 8 from the free throw line and 5 for, I think, 7 from the field or something like that. I can't remember. 3 for 5 from the field. So, that means that he was more active, and that means that we put more fouls on their better players. Their better players had to work harder. We wasn't standing on the perimeter as much, playing on our heels, so to speak, and we were more attacking, and that's what got us back in the ball game.
Before we look ahead to A&I weekend, which is happening this Saturday, I know we don't have a game this Thursday, so we only have one game on Saturday. What are the things that you look forward to in long weeks for this team?
Well, rest and recovery first and foremost. We took Monday off. I mean, we have a bunch of guys like everybody else that have nagging injuries. Basketball is such a long season; you really never are fully well. So, it's a lot of pounding. We have some travel involved. Long distances and stuff like that. That we've sort of been helped with by flying more this year, thanks to the administration here. But to answer, we needed to get healed up. We have the best trainer in the world, man. Chase
Most
Bridge is the best. So he works miracles for our team. So that gave him another day or two to work with our guys. We spent a lot of time on shooting yesterday, which we definitely need to do that because we've been up and down all year. We really wasn't very good last week. So now today, we're trying to get more focused on our game plan, and you need to use the off week wisely. You need to kind of get away from it a little bit and recharge your battery, so to speak, and refocus. And I told the team, I said, your battery should be recharged this morning. I said our focus should be there. So for this part, from here for the rest of the season, we should be ready.
And as for this weekend, which is A&I weekend, it's a throwback weekend. We're going to pull out those beautiful Texas A&I jerseys. What is your message to the people that are a part of that A&I system that are they hold that to a high honor? What is your message to them as we enter this weekend?
Well, I mean, they're my brothers, sisters. They put the uniform on, if they've attended this university and they've been a part of our brand and move us forward, man, they're one of us, And I had a unique, I spoke at a alumni event in Houston this summer, and I had a teammate, and as I was speaking to the crowd, and I always try to talk about the A&M Kingsville deal because, I'm an alumnus from here, so I talk about it up front to kind of be uniting. We're one. I've stayed in the same dorms as some of these great players that Fred mentioned earlier. I've walked the same hallways. This is the same school. We went through a name change, I understand, but it is the same school. Some of the same people, like Fred, has been there all throughout for 51 years, and he's still committed. So I try to tell our story, and I want to reach back. And, guys like Mike Escalante, who's been a huge part of our program, who actually hit the game-winning free throw to beat Houston back in the day. Man, that's phenomenal. The Ed Turner being drafted in the first round, that's phenomenal information. That's a part of our heritage. And that guy, those two gentlemen have played, and Hoagie Simmons as well, that Fred mentioned earlier, in this facility, same gym I played in. So this is our school, and we deeply appreciate their commitment and the legacy that they left here. I'm just the caretaker of this program. I look at the 92 championship team. I'm good friends with a lot of those guys. Sidney Days, Michael Robbins, T.C. Shields, Kyle Roy, and, the second best point guard to ever probably play here. I always call this guy DJ Johnson, but no, that's my boy, DJ. Don't get mad at me. But those guys won the first championship, man. And when I got here, that was '92, and they played for my coach, Bill Carter. And in '96, I got here in '94. That's all I heard about those guys, and I got to meet those guys, and I want to be meet their brand and push the brand forward. Even though that wasn't the terminology you used back then, you were just trying to win a championship and win games. But those guys would come back, in the summer, or come back sometimes. Especially Michael Robbins was finishing school, he would play with us and would tell us stories about how to win here. And see, that's kind of how I learned how to play. You learn, like I told you about Kobe, how he learned from Mike. Well, we learned from those before us. And there's no future without a past. You've heard me say that before. So this A&I Heritage Day is phenomenal for me. And how much we talk about the greats that played here and telling their story for the kids that are here. And I hope that we're able to have a lot of these guys come back. I know sometimes the travel is tough, but it's always good to come back to the school that you left a legacy and a mark at.
And as for this week, I mean, we know, like you mentioned, the A&I week, but we know football has it. We know volleyball has it. Our women's basketball team has it. How important is it for you and the coaching staff around this university whenever this week comes for this on the schedule?
I think that it's special for me, because I am an alumnus from here. But I think to have the buy-in of every coach that's had this game, I think Tanya Allen's done a great job when she's had it. I mean, reaching out and promoting it. I thought Coach Wilkinson did a great job when he did it. I know Mike would do a great job. I thought Wade did a good job. I think Mike would do a great job, because, with women's basketball. But I think, even if you was not an alumnus from here, it's a huge part of your job to make sure you tell the story of the school that's been loyal to you and giving you an opportunity. When I worked at Navarro, that's what a lot of people thought I played for Coach Joy and I played at Navarro. I didn't, but I embraced and entrenched myself in that community, but also with the ex-players, because I was one of them. And and I'm always going to be one of them. And that's the same thing that we're doing with our players, is to say you will always be a Javelina. Because we have guys transfer in from other colleges, whether if it's Division 1 or Division 2 or maybe junior college, and where they start at, that's kind of home for them. But what we try to do is recreate that and make it a little bit better and say this is a legacy for life, and talk about some of these very highly successful people that have worn this uniform. So when we walk out of here on Saturday at 4 o'clock with that Texas A&I on our jersey, we wear that with pride, and we do not take that lightly.
And as for the students, we know we have a big support from our student body at recent games. Whenever we do take that court on Saturday, and the team and the students see us with those A&I jerseys, what do you think they should take out of that special moment?
I think they should understand that there's a huge responsibility. It's a huge responsibility for them on their watch to help push our brand forward. I think they should go back and research and look at some of the old pictures of how this gym used to look back then, filled up with students. How the football stadium looked back then, filled up with students. How those students, I understand times are different. There was no internet and all this, and cable, and it's a lot of different but they supported, and how their part is very important. Just like Mr. Nuesch's part for 50 years, over 50 years, has been very important in winning. When you have the best SID in the country telling your story, more people are going to hear it versus having somebody that does not tell the story the right way. When you have the best student body in the country, you have a better chance. You witnessed that on Saturday. I mean, that game could have went either way in terms of at the end, but also could have got out of hand. But our fans, I think, are starving to get behind winning programs. I think they've done a great job getting behind the programs that have won. I know track has won national championship, sand volleyball has won national championship. Football's won a bowl game. Track and field, I was thinking, say track and field. Baseball's been to, softball almost winning national championship. Baseball going to the Elite Eight. So we're right there, and we're just trying to do our part. And the most consistent thing I can say to them is, through it all, the student body has the most impact of all, that can push your program to the next level, that they can give you something to recruit to that nobody in the country can, which is a very, very loyal, very, very supportive fan base.
So, Coach, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join me on the Javelina Men's Basketball Show.
Thank
Good
you,
luck
sir.
against International this Saturday. Go Habs. Javelina Nation, welcome back to episode 16 of the Javelina Men's Basketball Show. I have a very special guest, Fred Nuesch of Javelina Athletics. So, Fred, thank you so much again for joining me on the Javelina Men's Basketball Show. But, Fred, before we get into this week, the throwback weekend, let's take a look back at what happened this weekend here at the SPEC. The Javelinas picked up a win against St. Mary's, and unfortunately things didn't go their way against St. Edwards. But what did this team prove to you with their fight and resiliency against a very tough St. Edwards team?
Well, they showed that, it looks like there's 3 or 4 top teams in the league. And of course, there's 18 teams in the league this year. So to be in the top 3 or 4 is really, really good. And looks like West Texas and St. Edwards, they're the two that are high right now. But the Javelinas are a game and a half or 2 behind West Texas, and only a game behind St. Edwards. And I think if I was St. Edwards or West Texas or Angelo or some of those teams, I don't believe I'd want to play the Javelinas, in the playoffs, because they all know that, the Javelinas are capable of beating them. I mean, these games have not been, Javelinas have been in them like the other night or the other afternoon against St. Edwards, which is, ranked, depending on what poll you look at, but they're ranked really high nationally. And, and right there at the very end, there was a chance, just one break or 2, either way we could have won the ball game. And, I think it's true against West Texas when they played here. And we still got to play Angelo, of course. We'll get a chance to see them in Dallas Baptist. And those are your top teams. Look like they're going to be the top seeds,
And as for the crowd, we saw them get into it whenever the Javelinas made that big stretch. What does that mean for this university, knowing that there's a fan base behind this team that's going to support them, win or loss? It don't matter the outcome.
Well, yeah, they get excited. As a matter of fact, I told Coach Estelle that the other afternoon against St. Edwards, I think that's the loudest I've heard the crowd here in a long time. Boy, I mean, they were really into it, whenever we were doing the rally, and getting there at the end, they were really making some noise. So, yeah, they're into it. Of course, the team dictates that. They're playing good. They're playing exciting ball. When you do that, it excites the fans. The students especially, they get very excited, and the team dictates that. And this team has dictated that, the people get behind them and support them, and they're doing that.
And well, as for this Saturday, the focus shifts to Throwback Weekend, which features a visit from Texas A&M International from Laredo, and the Javelinas are going to be wearing their Texas A&I jerseys. And I know you have I know you support that brand for a very, very long time, A&I, even through the switch to A&M. How important is this game for the people of Texas A&I and for the people like you?
Well, it's okay. I've always said that we've been Javelinas all the time, and whatever the university name is, we're still Javelinas. Athletically, we represent ourselves as Javelinas usually, but of course I was a sports information director for Texas A&I for I think 25 years, and so it's a very important. I've still got lots of clothes with A&I on them, shirts and wind jackets and that kind of stuff. But I think I think it's important that those who have degrees from Texas A&I and those who have only been here during Texas A&I, it's important to see that they're still part of the school. I mean, otherwise, this is still the same university, it's still the same teams, it's still the same athletic department, and I think it's good to show that we're, since '93, we've been A&M Kingsville, but A&I, whatever the 5 universities we've been under that name, that they're all still part of the overall program.
And as for the students that aren't really familiar with the A&I name or what it means to this university, how important do you think it is for the students to realize the impact that it left here at this university?
It's important because, of course, it's all part of the history of the university. It's important that the students know that this school's been here since 1925, and that it's like I say, it's been under several different names, and but it's all still the same buildings. It's still the same Javelinas from 1925. It's never changed, and things are still may have a different name, but basically it's still the same. It's still the same great university it's always been.
So Fred, thank you so much for joining me on the Javelina Men's Basketball Show, and I hope to see you this Saturday for A&I Weekend.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, I believe I'll be there.
Yes, sir. Sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you so much. Go Habs.
Mr. Nuesch,
Yes, Mr. Estelle.
it's been a long time. 25 years you and I have known each other. 51 for you here at the university, correct?
51 plus.
51 plus. We have a unique, fun-loving relationship, but to be very serious about it, we really appreciate what you do for the Javelina Nation. You've told the story of this university, just not from an athletic standpoint, but just the story of the entire university. But you've told my story, you've told those before me their story, you've told those after me. What do you get out of your job? What is the most gratifying thing that you get out of the job that you do, and what propels you to keep doing it at a high level?
Well, of course, obviously, I went into this field because I like publicizing people. I like promoting. Those are the things I've enjoyed ever since I was, in high school. I was fortunate enough that as early as the 10th grade, I knew what I wanted to do. I mean, I knew what I liked doing. And the newspaper in my hometown let me be more or less the unofficial sports editor. I did all the high school sports and covered the area and all that. And I like, first of all, I like writing, and I enjoy promoting, and I enjoy getting behind a program, behind people, and promoting them. I mean, that's my career. That's what I like, and so I enjoy doing that. Then, of course, I came here, and it didn't matter where I was. I was in Paris, Texas, and I loved the Paris Wildcats and Paris Junior College, which beat your team quite a few times, didn't they?
No, sir. No,
I
sir.
thought they did.
No.
Okay,
No,
but anyway, I enjoyed Paris Junior College, and promoting those schools up there. They did in baseball.
Yes.
But anyway, we had I enjoyed that, and when my high school I promoted, and I covered Henderson State when I was there, and so that's the type of thing I enjoy doing. I mean, you like coaching,
Hmm.
I like promoting, I like doing that, and as long as I can do it, I will do it because I mean, as long as the school will continue to let me do it, I've been retired now, gosh, about 17 years,
Wow.
and but the school lets me work part time, and I'm still able to do what I enjoy doing.
Well, I think that's probably the most important thing in the longevity in your career is that you've been always a very passionate person, very supportive person, wherever you've been. And one of the highlights of my, you know, return here, and I've said this before, and I know you look at it and probably smirk or laugh, but is to come back and share moments with you, to relive those times, but also to make new memories. And you do the highlights every week. It's very detailed. It's a high level. Um, uh, I don't know what you call it, magazine, or what do you call it? Just a subscription that people
Tabloid newspaper. It's a
newspaper that, man, I don't think anybody in the country has anything that like that. And I remember when I
They don't
first
have
received
anybody-
my
they don't
first
have
one.
anybody crazy enough.
Exactly. It's a lot of work goes into that. But I remember when I was on the mailing list when you used to mail them out, and I used to look for that envelope every Monday or every Tuesday whenever I got it, and I read it throughout. But now that it's emailed, you've kind of, man, you've got more technically advanced over the years. Has that been a challenge for you?
Yes. Continues to be. Yeah, no, the constantly changing program. But again, I've had some good students
Yes.
working with me, and some people around me that have taught me how to do those things shortcut.
Yes.
And Craig Merriman, who was
Yes.
SID here, he's a student here, and then he became SID. Craig helps me. As a matter of fact, right now we're in the process of moving from one type program to another
Uh-huh.
by necessity, and Craig's going to come and show me how to do it when he's in town,
Okay.
and later this month. And I know that with him there, in a day's time, I can learn it because he teaches you
Yeah.
practically.
Yes.
But anyway, you do have to learn all these new things, and I don't like them.
Mhm.
I'm typical, I guess. Old dog, new tricks. You don't like that, and
Well,
but you don't have any choice. You have to do it, and
yes, sir.
and so I'm learning how to do that. But no, it is. I used to. Whenever we changed over from mailing over 1,000 a week
Mm-hmm.
to emailing now over 1,000, I didn't like it. I thought, but I mean, we're down now to our mailing list is about 27
Oh, wow.
is all,
Wow.
and the rest I'm good at email now. And some people go on the website and look at it. Like Dwayne Nix, one of our
Yes.
former football players. I said, Dwayne, I'll email it to you. He says, no, I'd rather go on there and read it on there because it fills up all my capacity or something. I don't know. But anyway, for some reason, Dwayne, he's an old timer too.
Yes, yes.
But he wants to go look at it. But we have it's growing. The list is growing all the time. The email list, and that's the way we like to send it. And this week, a good example of how it's good to have that. If you printed this week's highlights, it's 26 pages.
Wow.
And that's a huge thing. It's hard to mail. It's hard to it's a big publication.
Yes.
But when you do it email, it's just another 10 pages, whatever it is, extra that you do this week. So it's
Yeah.
easy to do.
Well, moving forward with the relationship, this is Texas A&I Heritage Week. This is a great opportunity. I don't know who came up with the concept. There was, I think, 2 years ago. We had A&I Day last year in basketball. I think in football as well. What a great concept. I know with the name change, there's always people that look at it one way or another. But what I've always respected about you and myself is that we always look at it from a Javelina's perspective. We're all Javelinas. It's funny. They changed the name 2 years, a year before I got here, and I actually had teammates that signed under Texas A&I, but played with me on the A&M Key, which we never looked at it any different. So I know you don't either, because you've been very committed to our brand and moving it forward. But what are some of the lasting memories of now that we're focusing on Texas A&I Heritage Day that you could probably say from a basketball perspective? I know the long history of football, and that's it sells itself. But from a basketball standpoint, we had a lot of good players back in those times that you've told their story, but this is a brief opportunity to bring up some of the guys that were special to you, that made a mark on you in their tenure.
Yeah, I came here in '68, early '70s. I just missed Phil Shirk. He had just finished here. Chuck Meyer, I think, was a senior first year I came here.
Okay.
And those guys are all-time leading scorers for the Javelinas and in the Lone Star Conference.
Wow.
And then in the early '70s, of course, we had Jeff Wildenberg, came here from Wisconsin. He and Don Hagany, and Jeff is our all-time leading scorer.
Really?
Still, yes.
Okay.
And then, of course, we had Jeff St. Clair came here from California, and Jeff was a especially good rebounder, and still holds some high marks. And then, of course, there's Hoagie.
Yeah, Hoagie Simmons. Yes, sir.
Hoagie, unbelievable showman.
Yes.
When Hoagie was here, we didn't have 3 points. He would have a third more points if, of course, we'd had 3 points, because
Really?
all of his shots were outside.
Wow.
He didn't shoot. He shot them outside.
Really?
And when I say outside, anytime he crossed the center line, if he was open, he shot.
Yeah.
Because he was that type of. He was that good. He was that accurate. But anyway, Hoagie had several 50-point games, and his average ended up being. He is the outstanding scorer, or the leading scorer, for a 2-year person. He came in from a junior college, and
But Ed Turner's got to be there too, right?
Ed Turner probably is the most complete
Yes.
overall player. He could rebound. He could shoot. He played the whole game.
And Ed got drafted in the first round by the Houston Rockets.
Yeah. Ed was probably maybe the best overall player we had, because Hoagie could shoot and score, and Jeff was really good at scoring, and he rebounded some too. But Ed was outstanding. He was one of the leaders.
Yes.
He was probably one of the best. And there's a whole series of them that through the years we've had a lot of good players.
Yes.
But in that
Michael Robbins, Isaac Washington, DeRon Brothers
during that
played with
period
me.
in the early '70s, though, we had players that even today continue to rank among the best. So
Really?
when we were A&I back in that period, they were really good. But then after we changed over, starting in the early '90s, and of course we had some those great teams. 2 teams won conference, and had one of our all-time best coaches, Coach Carter.
Yes,
of
Bill
course
Carter.
we played under Coach Carter, and great coach, great man.
Yes. So Jerry Hopkins was the coach before Coach Carter.
Right.
And then before him would have been,
Thomas.
Roy Thomas
Yeah,
is
Roy.
a good friend of my mentor, Coach Orr, and also played at Tyler Junior College. And
Right.
Coach Orr actually coached against him when he was a player, believe it or not. But, a lot of people didn't understand the value of, basketball back then, I think, because we were so dominant in football,
yeah.
but and we got a little overshadowed. But there was a lot of good athletes that played
Well,
basketball.
you think through the years, men's basketball, we haven't had women's that long, of
Yes.
course, but men's basketball, track and field,
Yes.
there have been, some of the best players in the Lone Star Conference for sure,
Really.
and even really on the national scene, we've had great people in coaches and players in both of those sports. Coach Kelly, of course, who passed away last week, Ken Kelly, when he was track coach here, we finished 4th in the nation in one year. Well, in 1969 or 70, I forget which. Both those years were great, and he had a team that finished 4th in AIA. And if you look back at who were the teams there then, they're all D1 schools now.
And,
Texas Southern, Prairie View,
exactly.
those people.
And that's something I want to tell our audience about the NAIA days. And a lot of times people, don't think that that's a great level. But back in those times, there were a lot of first and second round draft choices that played in this conference at Stephen F. Austin and Howard Payne, Sam Houston State. So it was a powerhouse conference with a lot of talent and good coaches. Unfortunately, sometimes when you play in a really good league, somebody has to win and lose sometimes. And some of these teams had, like national championships coming out of this conference. So when I tell our story like you tell it, I try to tell our audience, give them a complete version of what it was like back in those days. Even though I wasn't there, I've researched it. I'm a student of the game, but I've had conversations with you and these ex-players, and it's always good to see them come back. Now, I'm gonna leave you with this one thing because I know you want to tell this story. Your highlight of
Hoagie hitting his
Texas
shot.
A&I memory. Just give us a brief how it happened. You were there. Give me the setting. I know gym full of people. Tell me what happened.
Okay, I tell you, of course, always Southwest Texas was the rival. You mentioned national champions. You didn't say Southwest Texas.
I
They
did.
won a
That's
national championship there
correct.
one year, but they that was the big rival in all sports. No matter what you, even track, they were big rivals with Southwest, and which to this very day, it's sad that these people for the past 20 years haven't been able to experience that.
Exactly.
Because it was really a great thing to play them. I mean, you hated them, but they were your best friends, really. So,
Yes.
but anyway, yeah, Hoagie, we were playing them here, and Hoagie drew a full house because he was spectacular in his way he played. And we had a full house. It was packed, and of course, with it being Southwest Texas, the fans were just mad. They were going crazy. And it was right at the end of the ball game, and Hoagie, like I say, he didn't pass many times. Hoagie shot, but we were right at the end of the ball game, and the game was tied, and Hoagie comes down and he dribbles and leaves a couple of guys on the floor, faking them out. He could do that, and he ran to the left side of the basket and did a jumper from the thing and ran out the door and never came back. It knocked the bottom out of it, and we beat Southwest Texas.
Boy, I tell you what, that's
great,
a
great
highlight.
memory. I tell you what, and you're talking about a crowd going crazy. They went crazy with that because
Wow.
Winning the game was great, but to beat the Bobcats was it made it extra special.
Well, Fred, I know man, your efforts are so appreciated here, and I mean that wholeheartedly. I don't take it personal. You didn't mention me in that group, but that's okay. But we really do. We respect you for what you do
Now,
every day.
Did you play in the 70s?
No, I was born in '73 when that shot was made.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh darn! I
yeah.
hate you have to miss that. I'll see if I can dig up some film.
But please do. I mean, we would love to see it. Is it on reel?
No, I tell you. Let me just say also too that I appreciate what you say, but this school has also been very good to me.
Yeah.
And the athletic department here. I've had great coaches to work with. I've had great individual players to publicize. When I first came here, my gosh, I came into a situation. They'd had 3 straight first-round draft choices.
Wow.
Randy Johnson, Eugene Upshaw, Jim Hill.
Wow.
They had just bang, bang, bang right there. So, and I stepped into a situation where my second, third year, we won national championships in football. We had those basketball players we're talking about. We had some great track guys. We were winning conference in 69, 70. We won the Lone Star Conference in track, finished 4th nationally, then 70. So I've had a lot of good things to publicize.
Well, we appreciate you doing that, man, because, Fred, like I said, you could do a lot with your time. And it's nothing better to see you come through our offices, come into our events, and continue to tell our story.
You have to help your coach,
Oh, well, yeah, you always going to coach.
I've told these ADs numerous times that they spend all this money with all these coaches. I can coach all these things. I can tell them how to do them wrong.
You never lost a game. Thank you so much, Fred.
Okay,
We love you,
thank
man.
you.
One, Javelina men's basketball fans, thank you so much for listening to episode 16 of the Javelina men's basketball show. Once again, my name is Landin. And I'd like to say thank you to my guest coach, Johnny Estelle, and Mr. Fred Nuesch. Once again, the Javelinas will be on the court this weekend for throwback weekend against Texas A&M International at 4 p.m. at the Spec. So we look forward to see you there as we celebrate both the past and the present. Thank you so much, and go Havs.